Part 28. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 282. 3 caddies of white sugar, 3 caddies of peach cakes, 3 pieces of fragrant pancreas, and 3 canned orange petals. Lin Xiahua reported the things she wanted to buy one by one, then looked at Zhao Yulan and smiled. Little sister, do you want to buy something? What? Hurry up and talk to this comrade, so you don't have to run errands back and forth. Then he looked at Chu Xia. Xia, didn't the comrade who sent us here ask you to help you buy it? Look at what you want to buy, and put it aside. Buy in bulk. If it was the early summer of this era, they would not be able to understand the meaning of these words at all, but now, this is the rhythm of killing fools. The question is she a fool? Comrade, please wrap up what she wants and pay the bill first, we will buy it alone. Chu Xia ignored Lin Xiahua and said directly to the donkey-faced salesperson at the counter. Lin Xiahua slammed her face down, was pulled by Zhao Qian, and quickly forced a forced smile. Comrade, then it will be counted as how much money? The salesperson looked at Chu Xia and rolled his big white eyes. Are you going to buy it or not? The attitude of the salesman in this era is not very good, and Chu Xia has already adapted, but this one, since they came in, has a long face drooping, the white eyes are rolled up, and the saliva is still splashing. Although I know that it is not good to have the same knowledge as this kind of person, yes, but she really couldn't control her emotions, so she simply turned her head aside and pretended not to hear. As for Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan, it was always based on the principle that if a daughter is right, she is right, and if she is wrong, she is right, and no one who dares to bully her is a good person. Therefore, it is even more impossible to talk to the salesperson. If you can't afford it, don't come in and look around, the donkey-faced salesman said while turning around to weigh the white sugar and peach cakes, and when they were all together, they piled them on the counter. 21 caddies of food stamps, 1 yuan and 50 cents. Lin Xiahua counted out a stack of food stamps in pain and handed them to the salesperson. He pushed the soap back with a smirk. Comrade, this. I'd better not take it. The salesperson gave her a displeased look. I said, comrade, you can't afford to mess around here? It's shameful to waste other people's time, do you know that? Lin Xiahua apologized again and again. I know, I'm sorry, I don't have much money, comrade, I have caused you trouble, I'm really sorry. The donkey-faced salesperson snorted. Putting the soap back on the counter and looking at Chu Xia's family, the big white eyeballs kept rolling, and the word disdain hung directly on his forehead. Xia, let's buy it elsewhere, Zhao Yulan whispered to Chu Xia. Yet Chu Xia turned around and walked out. In this day and age, there is a shortage of supplies, and many things are in limited supply. Therefore, it is a very honorable thing to be able to work in a supply and marketing cooperative. She didn't like the salesperson's attitude. But if you really want to compete with her, you have to trouble Jingzhe outside to help her find a place, then it's nothing to do. So all she can do is not buy it? Certainly. Whether you buy it or not, it doesn't matter to this woman. They don't get paid for their performance. They get the same money whether you buy it or not. This is a special phenomenon in a special period. Let her go crazy first. One day, she will pay the price for her madness. I have to say that a certain AQ has become more energetic. If you can't afford it, just say you can't afford it. At first glance, you look like a country boy, pretending to be a wolf with a big tail. The donkey-faced salesman sneered, and when Chu Xia looked back, he saw the young man standing at the counter opposite the donkey-faced salesman. The big salesperson kept winking at herself, signaling her to leave quickly. Forget it, if you really care about this kind of person, you will really fall behind. I guess this woman has too low self-esteem for her attitude, she looks too low self-esteem. Brother, I didn't buy it for you. After getting in the car, Chu Xia spread her hands to Jingzhe. I can't help it, I'm too good looking, and the salesman inside is jealous of me and doesn't give me a good face, so I don't want her to take advantage of me. My money, oh no, it's your money. Jingzhe shook his head with a smile, started the car, and drove away slowly. Zhao Qian hurriedly said, Brother Jing, don't be angry at Chu Xia, the salesperson's attitude is too bad, he probably bullied us because we are from the countryside. My sister-in-law and uncle are more precious to Chu Xia than their eyeballs. When did she suffer this kind of grievance? It's not bad if he didn't rush up and beat that person up. Am I that fierce? Chu Xia looked at Zhao Qian meaningfully. You said, was that me? Zhao Qian grabbed Chu Xia's wrist with a disturbed expression. Xia, sister is protecting you, not saying bad things about you. Did you misunderstand what sister said? No misunderstanding, you just want to show that you are obedient, but... Chu Xia poked Jingzhe with a smile. Brother, my cousin is interested in you, let me tell you, do you like her, or else, she will continue to belittle me in such a taboo way, and I am too wronged. No, no, Zhao Qian waved her hands again and again. Xia, I really do it for your own good, and I want to say good things for you, but you misunderstood me, really. As he said this, his eyes were Baba stared at Jingzhe. Chu Xia, how about teasing brother? Jingzhe shook his head, and then said seriously, by the way, I have something to inform you officially. I have established a relationship with Zhen Meili. In the near future, you will call her sister-in-law. Really? Chu Xia sat up straight in surprise. When did this happen? Only in the last few days. Jingzhe raised his brows proudly. I tell you, it was your sister-in-law who chased me, aren't you arrogant? Bullshit, Chu Xia gave a thumbs up, and said somewhat tangled, the problem is, she is Zhou Mikang's cousin. From now on, should I call her sister-in-law or should she call me sister-in-law? Of course you called her sister-in-law. Jingzhe took it for granted, I was the one who fell in love with you first, but that bastard Zhou Mikang was immoral and didn't give me a chance at all, so I could only watching you marry him without fighting or grabbing. This time, if I don't take advantage of him, I will feel uncomfortable all over. In the future, when he sees me, he will shout brother seriously, if you dare not shout, you will divorce him. Okay. That's it. Chu Xia smiled and frowned, suddenly looking forward to seeing Zhou Mikang frowned and called brother Jingzhe with a tangled expression. Zhao Yulan and Lin Baohe looked at each other with helplessness. Alas, my daughter, I have to talk about it later, how can I just go along with this kind of thing? How uncomfortable would the Zhou family feel if they heard it? Zhao Qian has kept her head down ever since Jingzhe said that she has the Lord, but her hands clenched into fists unconsciously. When the car arrived at a supply and marketing cooperative in front of the train station, Zhao Qian suddenly screamed and said, I forgot to buy the knee pads I promised to buy for Grandpa. Brother Jing, can I trouble you to stop? Jingzhe stopped the car expressionlessly. Chu Xia, come with me and help me choose, okay. Seeing Chu Xia nodded, Zhao Qian looked at Lin Xiahua, Mother, you can chat with my sister-in-law and uncle for a while, Chu Xia, and I will be back soon, otherwise, you should buy tickets first, and then come here to pick us up, Brother Jing, okay. Jingzhe asked Lin Baohe and Zhao Yulan, Uncle Lin, Aunt Zhao, what do you think? Lin Baohe nodded, okay, listen to Qian, don't delay buying the ticket. Zhao Qian pulled Chu Xia out of the car, and when they passed by Lin Xiahua, the mother and daughter looked at each other, and then quickly looked away. Upon closer inspection, the legs of the mother and daughter were trembling slightly. This supply and marketing cooperative named Guangliang is larger than the previous one, and there are many more things in it. There are 3 salesmen in total. Exposition. Zhao Qian said, Xia, the attitude of this store is good. Why don't you buy things for Brother Zheng? Anyway, we're going to stay here longer. Okay, Chuseo responded, and walked over to the fabric of the clothes. Can you help me take a look at the knee pads? There are two types, military ones and ordinary ones. The military ones are more expensive, but they are warmer. The salesperson is a handsome girl in her 20s and 3 years old. She has a nice voice and a good attitude. A feeling like spring breeze. Military use, Chuseo said without thinking. Zhao Qian looked embarrassed. Chuseo, I didn't bring a cloth ticket, and I didn't bring any money. Why not? Why don't you put it on first, and I'll pay you back later, okay? You don't take money to buy things for grandpa. Chuseo gave her a cold look. You're sincere, right? If you want me to buy it, do you need to pretend to be a good person? I'll just send it back to grandpa myself. Money, I'll pay. Accompanied by the voice, Xiao Yuan walked over from behind. Out of the corner of Chuseo's eyes, the moment Xiao Yuan came out, two men stood at the door of the supply and marketing cooperative, one left and one right, with a sneering smile on their lips. I'm sorry to ask my brother-in-law to pay. It should be. Xiao Yuan glanced at the salesman, and in a blink of an eye, the three of them disappeared behind the curtain. He, I want to make something clear. I am no longer your brother-in-law. I divorced Zhou Yiping. You should still call me Brother Yuan. Resisting the feeling of vomiting, Chuseo looked at Zhao Qian lightly. Why do I feel that you brought me here on purpose to meet brother-in-law Xiao? You know that the Zhou family and the Xiao family are not dealing with each other. Are you trying to harm me? That's right, I just wanted to bring you here on purpose. Zhao Qian hurried to the door. Why do you have everything you want, but I don't have anything? Do you know what I suffer these days? If it weren't for you, would I need to suffer those crimes? Since you don't treat me as a sister, I don't need to treat you as a sister. You should know how he wants to deal with me, right? Chuseo still had a calm expression on his face. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 283. The second watch arrives. You should know how he wants to deal with me, right? After Chuseo's words fell, Zhao Qian's eyes flickered unnaturally, and then she felt guilty. I don't know how he treated you. I'm only responsible for bringing you here, and the rest has nothing to do with me. Chuseo responded lightly. What condition did he promise you? Xiao Yuan took a step forward, with a distorted smile on his gloomy face. Let me tell you this, as long as she is willing to trick you out, she and her mother can get a job as a waiter, not the laundresses and toilet men. Just for this, you betrayed me. Chuseo decided to look at Zhao Qian. Or, you are born cold-blooded. No matter what, you and I are also cousins who are related by blood, so if you do this, you will be a bit guilty. Feel nothing. What's wrong with me? When you married into a good family but didn't want to help me at all, did you feel guilty? Zhao Qian snorted coldly. I wouldn't be angry if you didn't say that. Lin Chuxia, you ended up today, it deserves it. You really don't want anything for the sake of climbing high branches. Chuseo curled her lips speechlessly, and saw the two people standing at the door, starting to tidy up the fenders. Xiao Yuan looked at her, and it became more and more difficult for her to accept. Her eyes turned to Zhao Qian again, and she saw that the other party was staring at her gloatingly, and when his eyes seduced her, he raised his eyebrows and smiled triumphantly. Very good. There was a cold smile on the corner of Chuseo's lips. She could finally do what she wanted to do without any psychological burden. Xiao Yuan, what are you doing with the door closed? There was a voice of inquiry. Mei Yitong walked in with a displeased face. It made me turn to the back to walk in. See Mei Yitong. Xiao Yuan's face changed obviously, thinking of the other party's background. She smiled again. Mr. Mei, why are you here? I happened to come here and wanted to come over to get something to eat, but in the end, I found that the door was closed. I thought something happened, so I quickly turned around from the back. Mei Yitong pointed at Chuxia. Why is she here? Young Master Mei also knows her. Of course. Zhou Mikang's new wife, why don't I know her? Mei Yitong sat down on the counter and smiled at Xiao Yuan. Why, do you want to eat alone? No, Mr. Mei misunderstood. Xiao Yuan smiled flatteringly. Originally, I wanted to control her and then notify Mr. Mei. Unexpectedly, it happened by chance. Mei Yitong raised her eyebrows. Really? Of course it's true. Xiao Yuan raised his hands to make an oath. If I lie, I will die badly. Mei Yitong waved his hand. Let's not believe those people, Yuan, your intentions. I understand, come here. Xiao Yuan hurried forward. Mei Yitong waved at him again. Signal him to get closer. Xiao Yuan looked at the distance between the two of them, so he could only move his head towards Mei Yitong. Ouch, the next second. He screamed in pain. Shhh. Mei Yitong grabbed his ear, pulled his head in front of her, and said in a low voice, if I don't come, what are you going to do, tell me. Mr. Mei. Xiao Yuan's expression turned ugly. His family's background is indeed incomparable to that of the Meis, but his father is now a celebrity in front of the chief. How could he treat him like this? The two families were passengers on the same boat, so why did he act like he was superior to others? 10 years in Hedong and 10 years in Hexi, who can say for sure whether the Xiao family will have the upper hand or the Mei family will have the upper hand in the future? Humph, if one day this bucket of coal fell into his hands, he would definitely let him taste what he is like now. Xiao Yuan was slandering in his heart, but he kept begging for mercy. Mr. Mei, please be gentle, my ears hurt. Answer my question. Mei Yitong tightened his grip on his ear. I want to give her to Mr. Mei to humiliate Zhou Mikang. After Xiao Yuan finished speaking, he emphasized again, what I said is true, what I just said is true, and I absolutely dare not lie to you, young master. Do you want me to humiliate you or do you want to humiliate me? Mei Yitong patted his cheek hard with the other hand. When did I, Mei Yitong, do the things you said? Why do you feel at ease when you drag yourself into the water? Xiao Yuan, do you know what I, Mei Yitong, hate the most in my life? It's what you're doing now, and you don't have the ability to settle accounts with Zhou Mikang and vent your anger on his woman. Are you a humming man? As he spoke, he looked at the two men who were about to move at the door. Are you planning to come over and deal with me? Come on, come if you have the ability, and then you will understand whether the Mei family can eat insidia or the Xiao family can eat insidia. No, no, Mr. Mei, we are only following orders. Yes, Mr. Mei, we listen to you. We will do whatever you say. In fact, we just dared not speak up before. That's what happened. We can't bear him bullying a weak woman in this way, but we can't help it. If we don't listen to him, he will make our family unemployed. Hey, the old family little ones have to eat, what can we do? Mr. Mei, you are the most reasonable person. We have been looking forward to your appearance in time. Unexpectedly, you will appear. Xiao Yuan's face darkened when he heard that the two of them dragged him into the pit as if they had greased their mouths for excuses. These two people usually kept saying that they only listened to him in this life, and they would do whatever he asked them to do. What to do? It turned out that this is the way to listen. Okay, I'll forgive you once for the sake of correcting your mistakes, but you have to make amends. Can you do it? Yes. Yes. Yes, the two nodded hurriedly. I can also redeem my crimes. Zhao Qian knelt on the ground with a plop. Comrade leader, I can't help myself. My mother and I were both deceived by Xiao Yuan. Shut up. As soon as Mei Yitong yelled, Zhao Qian stopped crying immediately, staring at Mei Yitong pitifully with her small eyes full of tears. Mei Yitong glared at her. This is the first time I've seen a vicious woman like you. Now, just wait for me and don't take a step forward. Yes, Zhao Qian replied, curling up into a ball. How delicate and delicate she looked. The successive betrayals of several people made Xiaoyuan so angry that he couldn't even speak. Now, it's your turn. Mei Yitong patted Xiaoyuan's cheek again. Don't look at me like that, even if I kill you now, I'm just doing justice for the heavens, you bastard. Life is a waste. Food, he said and looked at Chu Xia. You can take revenge yourself. I promised your brother to help you, and naturally I will help you. Come here, I will catch him. How do you want to deal with him? Just tell me, I'll be your freebieter today. Mei Yitong, you and I are comrades in arms on the same front. You are crazy, and you actually helped Zhou Mikang. Don't forget, your girlfriend back then was snatched away by Zhou Mikang. Let's admit it. Xiaoyuan regained his senses and began to shout while struggling. It didn't make me angry if you didn't mention me. Mei Yitong slapped him across the face. I hate you the most, a bastard who is so provocative. You can try again. Xiaoyuan's strength and Mei Yitong's are basically the difference between an ant and an elephant, so when Mei Yitong frightened her, she immediately withered away. When Chu Xia approached, he first thanked Mei Yitong with a smile, and when his eyes turned to Xiaoyuan, his face suddenly pulled down. Brother Mei, please let him lie down. Okay, Mei Yitong responded, and pushed Xiaoyuan to the ground, then put her foot on his chest, signaling Chu Xia, let's do it. Your eyes, I have long wanted to gouge them out. Chu Xia raised a needle in his hand. However, I can't do such a cruel thing as gouging out your eyes, but, thinking of your eyes, I feel uncomfortable when I look at people, so I have to make a compromise. As he said, he raised the needle, smiled evilly, and hit Xiaoyuan's ass with the needle. In order to keep you from thinking about it in the future, I had to waste it. This is a tube of precious medicine. After speaking, he took in a painful breath. Xiaoyuan's body was restrained, and he didn't hinder his speech. He asked with a trembling voice, what did you inject me with? Girl, if you dare to do anything to hurt me, my dad will definitely avenge me. In this life, I will never let you go. Mei Yitong stomped on his head and crushed it. As entrusted by others, you can scold my friend's sister for being loyal. Poor Xiaoyuan's mouth, after 2 tooth-smashing incidents, was crushed bloody again. What is the effect of this medicine? You will experience it in the future. Tisk tisk, this injection is actually worth it. While speaking, a tube of medicine has been pushed into Xiaoyuan's body. After pulling out the needle, Chu Xia still felt a little uncomfortable. Relieving the hatred, he glanced at Zhao Qian, who was trembling on the ground, and waved at her. Didn't he say that he harmed you? Do you want to step on it a few times? Zhao Qian hesitated for a moment, then got up, moved to Xiaoyuan's side with difficulty, raised her foot, stepped on his leg, and then looked at Chu Xia pitifully. Xia, my legs are weak. You still have soft legs. Chu Xia smiled sarcastically. When you were going to deal with me back then, you didn't have weak legs at all. If you dare, you will target me. No, it's not. In order to show her loyalty, Zhao Qian jumped on Xiaoyuan and began to step back and forth. Tisk tisk, Director Xiao enjoys it very much. This massage service cannot be bought with money. Chu Xia tisk tisk twice, took out a written statement from his pocket and handed it to Mei Yitong. Let him press his fingerprints. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 284. Mei Yitong, you humming are a waste. Zhou Mikang robbed your woman, and you still protect his woman like a grandson. I am obviously helping you out. You can't tell me if you want to attack me. How dare you put a cuckold on Zhou Mikang? Xiaoyuan was really mad when Mei Yitong forced his fingerprints on the confession, and he didn't care whether he was Mei Yitong's opponent or not, so he started to curse regardless. It seems that you still don't like this tooth very much, so I'll make it happen for you. Mei Yitong handed the confession to Chu Xia, picked up Xiao Yuan with a gloomy face, and greeted Xiao Yuan when he rounded his face. Oh! Ah! Ah! Amidst the hooting sound like a pig being slaughtered, his teeth fell to the ground mixed with blood. Zhao Qian fainted from fright. Chu Xia also felt very uncomfortable, but when she thought of what Xiao Yuan was going to do to her, her heart hardened immediately. She forced herself to stand there and face the scene in front of her. Even if Wu Jingbo hadn't discovered Xiao Yuan, even if Jing Zhe hadn't planned to see through Xiao Yuan, she wouldn't have gone out with Zhao Qian. However, it is impossible to guard against. If the other party has such nasty thoughts about her, he should die. If she ever provoked him, or did something inappropriate towards him, that's all. The first time we met, he harbored ill intentions towards his brother-in-law's fiancée, looked lewdly at him, and was beaten up, definitely asking for it. A man who doesn't look for reasons from himself, but only thinks of revenge, such a man is the scum of scum, and being kind to him is cruel to him. Jing Zhe asked her out to talk because he didn't want to arouse the vigilance of Lin Xiahua and Zhao Qian. Based on Wu Jingbo's description, he roughly guessed what Xiao Yuan was going to do, but she didn't dare to be very sure, so she agreed to send Lin Xiahua's mother and daughter to the train station. It's just a test. If during this process, Xiao Yuan did not take any action, then it should be assumed that he misunderstood. As for Lin's mother and daughter, maybe they really suffered a lot outside and wanted to go back to their hometown to live a stable life. Although what the mother and daughter did was very unethical, for the sake of their relatives, give them a step up and reunite the second uncle's family. It's also a happy ending. It's a pity that they let her down after all. They cooperated with each other's actions when they knew exactly what Xiao Yuan was going to do to her. It was really unforgivable. Jealousy is human nature. Even between sisters who are related by blood, there may be feelings of jealousy, but there must be a degree in everything. Because of jealousy. Just throwing away family affection, being vicious to such an extent, is simply not as good as a beast. That kind of people. She won't show any more affection. About this time, she will write a letter to tell her grandparents and second uncle truthfully, whether they still need to admit that they are from the Zhao family. She has no right to interfere, however. She will never admit their identities again. For Xiao Yuan, the scum of scum, she had nothing to sympathize with. She didn't do it because she knew that she couldn't do him any real harm, so she used another way to deal with him. The best way to take revenge is not to let the other party die, but to make the other party's life worse than death. Didn't Xiao Yuan have that kind of idea for her? Then she will make him unable to make that kind of idea to anyone in the future. Of course, this method cannot be used if you are not sure that the other party has no chance of turning over, otherwise, you will always be worried about this disgusting villain in the future, and you will be annoyed to death if you are not killed. She already knew that Jing Zhe had handed over some invisible evidence from Xiao Binqi. In the current situation, the higher UPS are still playing games, but the winning side has already begun to show signs. It was precisely because he was certain that there might be no future troubles that Jing Zhe gave her the specially formulated medicine. And she is more certain than Jing Zhe, because she knows the future situation better than anyone else, so she can deal with Xiao Yuan today without any psychological burden. She firmly believes that he will never have the chance to target her again in this life. She also asked herself, if she didn't know the future situation and the future of the Zhou family was uncertain, would she stand firmly by Zhou Mikang's side? The answer is yes, yes. This is her character. Although she is a little lazy, a little sloppy, not willing to endure hardships, and less resilient, but when she really faces a choice, she will take a shot of justice for herself like a chicken blood. Banner. Or, this is just a common phenomenon of young people of her age at her age. They may look a little indifferent on the surface, but they have a strong sense of justice in their bones. After something happens, they seem to be sorry for all mankind if they don't show some loyalty. Embarrassing. It wasn't until Xiaoyuan was beaten into a bloody man that his mother couldn't recognize it, that Mei Yitong withdrew his hands unsatisfactorily, squeezed both hands together, and kicked Xiaoyuan, who was lying on the ground with his corpse on top. You like to move your mouth, brother likes to do it the most, coward. If you have the ability, go ahead. I would like to continue, but you have knocked out all my teeth. How can I continue? Xiaoyuan lay on the ground complaining. He dared not move at the moment. As for making a sound, not to mention that the conditions are not allowed, even if the conditions are allowed, he would not dare. Damn, this Mei Yitong is so vile. When he beats up people, he kicks wherever it hurts. His whole body is in pain now, and I don't know if there are any broken bones. If one day he falls into his hands, he must be let. He has a taste of today. Curled up on the ground like a shrimp, Xiaoyuan didn't forget to feel ruthless in his heart. Chu Xia also stepped forward and kicked him. There is a way to heaven and you don't go, but there is no way to hell and you just want to squeeze in. Do you think you are full of mud in your head? Tell me, if you are willing to live in peace after knocking out your teeth for the first time, will there be a second time? As a result, I don't have a long memory after the second time, so I have to have a third time. Alas, if you don't want to understand, there must be a fourth or fifth time in this life, and if you fail to keep it, you will lose your life. I'm just a good-hearted person to tell you this, otherwise, you will die one day without knowing how you died. Speaking and looking at Mei Yitong, brother Mei, my parents should have come here almost. Mei Yitong waved her hand. Okay, you go, I'm here. Thank you. Chu Xia smiled at him sincerely. When Zhou Mikang comes out, I will ask him to thank you. Okay, I'll make a note of this. When the time comes, he must thank me personally. Mei Yitong raised his brows. Hey, why don't you recognize me as your brother too? Chu Xia stared at him speechlessly. Just to make Zhou Mikang call you brother? No, I'm here to support you. The more powerful your mother's family is, the straighter your waist will be in your husband's family, right? Of course, you may not care, but what about your parents? They are just a girl like you. I guess I really mind that your family is not as good as the Zhou families. Thank you for thinking of me so much, but I don't have the habit of recognizing my brother immediately when I meet people. Goodbye. Chu Xia hurriedly took 2 steps, glanced back at Zhao Qian, and then left without looking back. Hearing the sound of footsteps disappear, Zhao Qian opened her eyes, got up slowly, and looked at Mei Yitong pitifully. Brother Mei, thank you. What? Lin Chuxia doesn't want to recognize you as a brother. I do. How about, you accept me as your younger sister? I really want to. Would you like me or not? Mei Yitong looked at her coldly. If it weren't for the fact that you are a girl, this would definitely arrest you and lock you up for half a year. Forget it, you go. As for where you want to go, you can do whatever you want. Zhao Qian hurriedly said, Brother Mei, I don't mind if you imprison me for half a year. Do you have a sense of shame? Mei Yitong stared at her violently. Get out now, or I will really take you to prison. The life there should be quite suitable for you. After finishing speaking, mentioning Xiaoyuan, she dragged her towards the back door. Zhao Qian followed 2 steps forward, but was frightened by the cold knife from the other side's back, and stood there steadfastly, not daring to move. At this time, the 2 men who had been guarding the door pretending to be scarecrows finally came back to life. They looked at each other and stepped forward to put Zhao Qian in the middle. Sister, it seems that you are really too late. Brother will help you, one of them said, and the other smiled shyly. Our brothers don't think you are ugly anymore. Let's go, follow our brothers, we will make you happy like a fairy. You, what do you want to do? Zhao Qian shrank her neck and backed her legs in fright. Her no lower limit is aimed at men with power, money who can bring her a good life. If she is ruined by these 2 men, she will. How can I marry a good man and live a good life in my life? We want to do what you want. The tall man squinted his eyes and smiled. Brother has lived such a long life, this is the first time I have seen a woman like you. Well, as long as you don't marry and go home, just have fun, not bad. The short man answered quickly, it's so reasonable. This kind of shameless woman is not good enough to be a daughter-in-law. Just for fun, it doesn't matter. Go back and call Laolu. Laolu has always been very rare about her. We buddies can't be disrespectful. Then let me go first. You discuss it with Laolu, but I don't care anyway. Listening to the conversation between the two as if no one was there, she howled so loudly that no one came in, feeling a sense of despair in her heart, and a stream of heat flowed down her trouser legs. The two men pushed her away in disgust. It's disgusting, forget it, such a short and ugly woman, forget it, the short man said. The tall man hesitated and nodded, let's go. After the two men left, 3 salesmen came in through the back door, and looked at Zhao Qian with disgust, and the older one said, hurry up, don't stay here, I have never seen such a shameless woman like you, come on, hurrying to get a man hummed, really makes people gain insight. Why didn't you tell me just now? Zhao Qian was relieved to see the 3 of them coming in, but at the same time felt resentful. To fulfill you, the older woman gave her a cold look, and took a broom to sweep the dust on her body. Get lost, don't disgust us here. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 285. The second watch arrives. Zhao Qian pointed to a few salespersons, her lips quivering, I saw those 2 men trying to rape me, but you didn't do anything about it. Are you still human? If we really fall in love with each other, you will probably hate us forever. You are such an interesting woman. You are still here pretending to set up a memorial archway for yourself even though you want to loosen your belt, the older woman said. He passed the mop in his hand to Zhao Qian. Hey, you mop yourself if you pee on your own, it makes you dirty to death. Zhao Qian snorted coldly, dropped the mop and walked outside. Several salespersons looked at each other, rushed forward together, dragged inside and got beaten up. They were scared to death just now. Both of them were their bosses, fighting with gods. Little devils like them can only watch. Fundamentally speaking, this supply and marketing cooperative is under the management of Xiao's family. Otherwise, Xiao Yuan would not choose this place to do bad things, but Mei Yaitong is also the leader of this supply and marketing cooperative. Interfering with any party is so insignificant that no one side will pull them into line, so for them, it doesn't matter who wins, they just need to keep their jobs. They couldn't and didn't dare to complain about things like cleaning the stalls, but when they saw this woman, they complained. All of this was caused by this dead woman. The point is, this woman has offended both Xiao Yuan and Director Mei, so let them serve you for a while, and one day, this will also be a token of loyalty. Zhao Qian, who was thrown out of the door, was so confused that she couldn't distinguish between east and west, and she struggled to get up, covering her face and crying loudly. I don't know where her mother Lin Ziahua is. Those 3 women pinched, twisted, and kicked her body. Now she is in pain all over, and she feels that she can't move a step. However, she can't just stay here and wait to die. What should she do? Growing up so big, she has never been so confused as she is now. She just wants to live a good life. Why is it getting worse and worse? Thinking back on everything she experienced after coming to City A, she suddenly missed her life in her hometown. Of course, she also especially hated Chu Xia and Zhao Yulan. In her view, they are all her relatives. Why do you ignore her when you are rich? Since they don't care about her, why should she care about them? Therefore, she didn't think it was wrong for her to help Xiao Yuan at all. She just had a little bad luck. Zhao Qian's small tonnage was actually quite conspicuous, and it became even more conspicuous when she cried like this. This made Lu Zhenqiang, who knew Xiao Yuan's plan and had no right to participate, come over after hearing the sound. Yanner. I am coming. Don't cry, I'm coming. Lu Zhenqiang held her in his arms and comforted her softly. Howling vigorously, Zhao Qian was so sad that he was dying. Suddenly being hugged in his arms, he quickly took off his hands covering his face, blinking and crying into small slit eyes. Seeing clearly who was holding her, there was a howled again. Okay, I'm here. Lu Zhenqiang carried her to the station. Brother Qiang will protect you from now on and prevent anyone from bullying you, okay? Zhao Qian sniffed, really? Of course it's true. Lu Zhenqiang nodded. When did Brother Qiang ever lie to you? Looking at the direction he was going, Zhao Qian asked suspiciously, where are we going now? Of course, go back to Brother Qiang's house. Lu Zhenqiang said softly, from now on, you will have a home. Brother Qiang's home is your home. What about my mother? My sister-in-law and the others must have thrown her away. Zhao Qian looked around while talking. Is she rich? Lu Zhenqiang asked. Zhao Qian nodded, well, the money you gave is all on her. Then leave it alone, the situation is quite chaotic now, with your current body, you can't stay outside for long, why don't I take you home first, and then look for your mother later? If she can't find you, she will definitely go back to her hometown by herself, and we have to go back to my hometown to issue a certificate when we get married. At that time, I will see her when I take you home. And Zhao Qian responded, and obediently followed him into the car. In a car parked in the distance, Chu Xia patted Lin Xiahua, who watched her daughter leave with Lu Zhenqiang. Your daughter is looking for her happiness. Do whatever you want. Okay, you can get off the car. Lin Xiahua was so focused on her daughter just now that Lin Xiahua didn't notice that the handcuffs on her wrists had already been removed. Scared by Jingzhe, she ran out of the car and left for the bus without saying a word. Direction to chase. Chu Xia glanced back at Zhao Yulan, who had a look of unbearable expression on her face. Mom, do you think I'm doing this too much? Not too much, this kind of woman has to let her have a long memory. Lin Baohe snorted, and glanced at his wife dissatisfied. Yulan, think about what she is going to do to our daughter. If you still feel sorry for her, you will not our daughter's own mother. Don't you know if I'm her mother? Zhao Yulan gave her husband a blank look. I don't think she's pitiful, I just think of my poor second brother. Alas, at this age, my wife and children are gone. It's not your brother, it's not like you don't feel it. He. Lin Baohe smiled embarrassedly, aren't I worried about my daughter? Then he looked at Jingzhe movedly. Xiaozhe, you are the great benefactor of our family, and Yulan and I are in early summer life. If something happens to her, both of us will die. You just saved the lives of our family of 3 by doing this. Uncle Lin, hearing you call me Xiaozhe, I don't think you and I are too polite. Jingzhe ignited the car with a smile and started to leave. I want to eat dumplings made by Uncle Lin and Aunt Zhao tonight. Lin Baohe patted his legs for a meal ticket. Okay, if you want to eat, we will pack it for you every day from now on. Father, we live at Grandpa Wan's house. Chu Xia deliberately hit her father. Lin Baohe scratched his head embarrassingly. Hurry up tomorrow, I'll also get the matchbox back to paste. Xiaozhe, I need your help with this matter, we are not familiar with each other. Father, are you serious? Chu Xia hugged Lin Baohe's arm with a smile. Grandpa Wan likes to be lively, and he is actually very happy when our family lives there. As for making money, let's talk about it later. The Zhou family's grandparents still live there. If you really use matchboxes to make money, people will gossip. Lin Baohe said in disapproval, is it more important to gossip or to eat? The Zhou family has no money now. If it's all wasted like this, Uncle and Aunt Zhou will probably feel uncomfortable. I think we should make matchboxes together. Fine. That's right. Chu Xia looked at Jingzhe. Brother, what do you think? Jingzhe nodded. Okay, I'll get the goods for you. He originally wanted to refuse, but then he thought again, If the Jing family supported the Zhou family at this time, Zhou Mikang would feel that he owed him a lifetime of favors, and he didn't want to earn such favors. Besides, doing some work is not something to be ashamed of. It is estimated that even if they want to do it, they may not be able to do it for a few days, so he simply pushes the boat along. They are busy with things in their hands, and they don't have time to think about it, so the pressure in their hearts is naturally less, especially if they have a personality like Chu Xia's parents. If they are kept idle, they may really get sick. At this moment, Chu Xia also figured this out, and the burden in her heart was gone, so she made a fuss with her parents and asked Jing Zhe to be a pickup and delivery worker every day, saying that if she recognized her brother, she couldn't let him be idle. Mei Yitong left Xiao Yuan in Xiao Bingqi's office. Looking at the bloody sun in front of him, Xiao Bing was so angry that his veins bulged. He didn't understand why Mei Yitong helped the Zhou family bully his son. The key point, the Xiao family and the Mei family were on the same front. I know what you're thinking. Mei Yitong patted Xiao Bingqi on the shoulder. You dote on your son so badly, I'm helping you straighten your neck, you have to thank me, right? Thanks for your size. Xiao Bing was so angry that his lips trembled and he couldn't speak at all. His son was lying on the ground like a dead dog. It was worse than ever before. He finally squatted down and stretched out his hand to check his son's breath. I felt a little more at ease. Don't worry, I won't kill him. Mei Yitong leaned on the table. The belt is always too loose, I hate his habit. In order to prevent him from causing disaster, I have to help you discipline and discipline. All right, I'm leaving. After walking 2 steps to the door, Mei Yitong added, if he can't control his belt any longer, you may really have to collect his body directly. Until Mei Yitong left, Xiao Bingqi didn't say a word. It's not that he didn't want to say it, but that he lost his voice with a breath stuck in his heart. He didn't realize the problem until he wanted to call someone in to help. Next, he discovered another problem. Why didn't anyone come over to ask what happened when Mei Yitong brought his son in for a long time? This made him feel very bad. Right now, his son is the most important thing. He is such an only child, so he can't just die like this. Suppressing the uneasiness in his heart, he picked up his unconscious son and walked out. He didn't meet anyone along the way. Fortunately, he could drive, so he personally sent his son to the city hospital. He never dared to send his son to 401 again. If he met that bastard Jing Zhe again, he might confess his son's life without anyone noticing. Fortunately, he has a good relationship with the vice president of the municipal hospital. After exchanging a few words with pen and paper, he arranged for his son to have a checkup, and he, under the leadership of the other party, went to the Department of Traditional Chinese Medicine. After giving him a few injections, he breathed out a breath of stale air, and finally he was able to make a sound again. Old Qin, thank you very much today. I'll go get the inspection result of the dishonest character first, and I'll treat you to dinner later. Xiao Bing shook Qin Zongshan's hand back and forth, with a rare expression of sincere gratitude on his face. Qin Zongshan said with a smile, if I didn't have another meeting, I would go with you. We've been friends for many years, so there's so much chatter. Let's go. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 286. The third one is brought up, the warm girl asks the beautiful girls and handsome guys to encourage and encourage. Zhou Mikang was transferred to the place of detention 3 days ago. He knew very well that this meant that the matter had really reached the final juncture. Both Lu Jun and Wang Xiaoguang had disclosed to him the situation outside during this period. Therefore, knowing that his family has been settled properly, his hanging heart finally fell. Even if the new guards are no longer specially arranged by Mr. Wang, he has nothing to worry about. Of course, when things got to this point, it was useless for him to worry. To him, as long as his family was safe and Chu Xia was safe, it would be fine for him to suffer a little bit. What's more, according to his analysis, things should not go bad. Joe Mikang, someone is here to see you. The tall, thin man in charge of the guard pushed open the door expressionlessly, and the old man he was familiar with and respected once appeared at the door. But now, he was only disappointed with him. Of course, his appearance here also shows that everything has come to an end, otherwise, with his identity, how can he be seen in his eyes? The old man sat opposite Joe Mikang, looked at him carefully for a while, with a kind smile on his face. Are you angry with Grandpa Wang? The corner of Joe Mikang's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. The old man nodded with a wry smile. I knew that you would be angry with me, but if it were me, I would probably be angry too. However, when a person is faced with a choice between millions and one, how would you choose? Joe Mikang turned his head to the side, still not speaking. Hey, the old man sighed heavily. I went to your father, and he said, he listens to your decision. Joe Mikang finally felt a little moved, of course, not for the old man, but for his father. Your father's personality has indeed changed a lot. I can't say whether this change is good or bad. Forget it, let's not discuss this. I'm waiting for your reply now. Will you continue to help Grandpa? The old man put the hand on the table, trembled slightly. In the past, the Joe family stood up again only under the care of this old man. Once, he was so grateful to him, thinking, he is really good to the Joe family. Once, he loved him like his own grandson, and he and his grandson were classmates for many years. If his grandson has it, he must have it. In short, the old man was kind to the Joe family. He can't veto it. However, the old man abandoned the Joe family this time. He still couldn't veto it. Now, he understands his father's decision back then. How difficult it is, at least, harder than him. After he pretended to be calm, only he knew how entangled his heart was. If Joe Mikang's voice was hoarse, I only have myself. No matter what you do to me this time, I will stand by your side unswervingly. But, I don't just live for myself, so, sorry. Understood. The old man patted him on the shoulder, got up, took 2 steps, and then stopped. My choice is only for business. I hope that you and Xiaja will not be affected in the future. Joe Mikang hesitated for a moment, then hummed. The old man waved his hand, opened the door and walked out. The moment the door closed, Joe Mikang covered his face with his hands, letting the tears flow between his fingers. When the old man walked out of the door, a red flag parked in the yard quickly drove over and stopped beside him. After he got into the car, a young man sitting in the back seat asked anxiously, "Grandpa, how are you doing?" The old man stared at a green-painted door in the distance and closed his eyes. "Let's go." The driver slowly drove the car out of the courtyard. The young man didn't get the answer, but he already knew what the answer was. He sighed, leaned on his seat, and closed his eyes to meditate. "Xiaja, do you know why I came?" the old man said suddenly. "For." After a pause, the young man said, "Isn't it for Uncle Joe to continue to stand on the same side as us? I'm successful, even if you believe me, I'm considered successful." A smile appeared on the corner of the old man's lips. "Xiaja, you are smarter and more understanding than your father, so I have always placed my hopes on you. You have lived up to expectations, although you are still a little green, but you can be regarded as a qualified politician, more qualified than Grandpa. In the future, let's continue to be friends with Xiaomi." "Grandpa did it on purpose." The young man's voice suddenly rose, and he said in a positive tone, "Grandpa, you did it on purpose. Our mother has endured too much suffering." The old man said slowly, as if he was telling a story, "The more the children fight, the harder the mother will be, so the most incompetent son chooses to quit, or, can give the mother a breather. The mother loves the son, and the son, how can he not love the mother?" "Grandpa, Wang Ji's voice choked up. He just said, how could the upright grandfather in his impression suddenly do such a thing? It turned out that he was simply giving the Zhou family a chance. He had already decided to quit, but he deliberately acted like he was going to die. In fact, he was creating opportunities for the Zhou family. Otherwise, how would the Zhou family be tied to that old man? That is to say, Grandpa has long believed that the old man's ability is much higher than his, and he believes that he can lead everyone out of a new world, so he gave way. It is obviously selfless, but this method is used. Silly boy. The old man smiled with relief. I am responsible for the tense relationship between Zhou Jingping and Zhou Mikang over the years, so it is what I must do to finally help them untie this knot. Even if they misunderstand now, one day, they will understand what the truth is. Grandpa is not wronged. The Zhou family and his son are truly handsome talents. I can't bury them. Wang Ji stared out the window, letting the tears flow freely. At this moment, he didn't think crying was a shameful thing. He wished someone would ask him why he was crying. Because he has such a great grandpa. How many people, in the face of power, can be so indifferent as grandpa? How many people are like grandpa who draw so magnanimously after a stroke of grace? Proud to be his grandson. He is proud. But damn, why is he so sentimental? Zhou Mikang, you bastard, you owe our Wang family, you owe me, one day, I will beat you up, dare to refuse my old man who is so kind and generous to you, damn boy, you wait for me. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 287. Corrected the typo and reposted it. Zhou Mikang, Yamiru is not suitable for you. Roll. You and I are close buddies. I won't hurt you. Listen to me and be happy. She really isn't suitable for you. She will ruin you if she is with you. You are my brother. It's because I'm your brother that I say things that others can't and don't want to say. Good medicine is bitter, wake up. You like her too? Zhou Mikang, we are no longer friends, if I TMC you again, I will not be human. This was a conversation between him and Wang Ji 8 years ago. Before that, they were best brothers. For the next 2 years, Wang Ji really stopped contacting him until the news spread that he and Yamiru broke up completely. At that time, he was so sensitive that he would die. Wang Ji kindly came to comfort him, but he kicked him out. He has the kind of stubborn temper, even if he realizes that he has wronged his brother, he still can't open his mouth to admit his mistake to the other party. Unexpectedly, he pokes the other party's weakness, and the other party is determined not to talk to him anymore. The stalemate lasted until the end now. Wang Ji's father, in his eyes, was an amiable and upright old man. He respected him, even adored him, but now, this old man broke all of this with his own hands. His current mood is very complicated. He regretted that he didn't settle his suspicions with Wang Ji before this, and he was also angry about the old man's deception over the years. I also regretted my stubbornness. At the same time, he wondered whether his own judgment was really correct. After thinking about it, what the old man said and did today was more like trying to ease the relationship between their father and son. In fact, he no longer hates his father now. Especially after going through this incident, although he still disagrees with his father's choice back then, he also understands a little more. But he himself knew that everything that happened during this period had truly proved that Wang Ji's father had indeed abandoned the Zhou family at a critical moment. It was when his various emotions were intertwined and he was so uncomfortable that he couldn't extricate himself. Someone came looking for him again. Seeing the door come in with a bang, Xiao Bing got up with a contorted expression, and the corner of his mouth twitched disdainfully. The middle-aged man in charge of guarding. Some embarrassed persuaded Xiao Bing, Director Xiao, we can't visit for the time being, so don't make things difficult for us, okay? Get out. Xiao Bing turned his head and glared at him, don't force me to be rough. Director Xiao, there is no approval slip. We really can't let you in. The middle-aged man also looked a little unhappy. In fact, he and Xiao Yuan are also on the same level. What right does he have to treat him like this? You guys. Are you dead? Xiao Binky rushed to the back and shouted, and 5 strong men came over hesitantly. He wanted to stretch out his hand to pull the 2 guards away, but he was too nervous to do so. Something happened. I'll take care of it. Xiao Binky looked at several people. Whether you want to apply for a promotion or not has been sleeping all the time. You decide for yourself. Director Xiao, it's in full swing right now. Although they are just young people, they can also feel what Director Xiao's development will be like in the future. Since Director Xiao said that he will take care of something, why do they hesitate? It's better to be in charge now. The situation forced them to take a gamble, and they came here, and they couldn't do it if they wanted to, so they looked at each other, gritted their teeth, and controlled the 2 men in charge of the guards, and stuffed white cloths in their mouths. Xiao Bing snorted, and ordered, You, look at them, you 3, go and handcuff the one inside to me on the table. The 3 of them flinched. Go or not? Xiao Bing narrowed his eyes, you don't want to do it, there are things you want to do. Do, let's do it. The 3 strong men took a long breath and rushed towards Zhou Mikang. Unfortunately, within a few minutes, the 3 fell to the ground. Xiao Bing's face turned blue from anger. Worthless. Zhou Mikang greeted him leisurely, come on, you are not a wimp, come here. You wait for me. Xiao Bing looked at several followers, you are also waiting here, I will be back in a while. Then he told the 3 lying inside, you guys, come out. Yes. When the 3 of them heard this, as if they were pardoned, they hurriedly got up and ran out to close the door, and locked it from the outside, as if Zhou Mikang would come out and beat them up if they didn't do so. 10 minutes later, Xiao Binky returned aggressively with a dozen or so middle-aged men. This time, the fight was still fierce, but in the end, Zhou Mikang was successfully restrained. You don't want a future. Zhou Mikang, whose legs and arms were pinned down, still had such a relaxed tone, and looked at Xiao Binky with teasing eyes, it's hard to get to where you are today, are you willing? What else am I reluctant to do? Xiao Bing pulled out a gleaming dagger from his waist, staring at Zhou Mikang fiercely in his eyes, don't worry, I won't kill you, but, I will make your life worse than death. Are you sure? Zhou Mikang's lips curled into a sarcasm smile, looking at you now, don't you think you're about to end your children and grandchildren? You instigated it? You instigated it. Xiao Bing twisted his cheeks, his lips trembled, and approached Zhou Mikang step by step. He gestured with the knife at that sensitive part, and laughed wickedly, now I want you to taste it too, taste the taste of cutting off children and grandchildren. While speaking, he brandished the dagger and stabbed fiercely at the middle of Zhou Mikang's legs. In his mind, the image of Zhou Mikang being stabbed by him, and from now on with his son, his expression became even more distorted. The people who pressed Zhou Mikang also had excitement in their eyes. Such a scene is too exciting. Treat the enemy like this. They are all loyal to Xiao Binky. Seeing the moment when the knife was about to fall, Zhou Mikang kicked firmly on Xiao Binky's wrist, and the dagger that was originally aimed at a certain part of Zhou Mikang turned around and stabbed straight into a certain part of Xiao Binky. Everything happened so fast. Before everyone recovered, Xiao Bing howled like a pig being killed. Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! Xiao Bing shouted like crazy. The minions who came back to their senses rushed towards Zhou Mikang, who had escaped from the restraint. As a result, Zhou Mikang, who was easily dealt with by them, was subdued and immobile, but this time, they quickly cleaned them up. The obedient sticky stickers can't move. With a cold face, Zhou Mikang picked up Xiao Bing, who was still howling. Is it comfortable? You. Xiao Bing didn't know whether he was angry or in pain, he couldn't speak at all. The moment he got the results of his son's examination, he felt that the sky was dark. Xiao Yuan was the only son in the Xiao family up to his generation. If the son couldn't give birth to a son, the Xiao family would really be left behind. In fact, it was a coincidence that the inspection found out that his son was injured by Jingzhe, and he seemed to have recovered, but he didn't know if it would affect his fertility, so he added an inspection. Unexpectedly, the result of the inspection was that it was completely dead. He didn't believe it and asked to check it again. The result is still the same. Seeing the result, the son was also stunned, and suddenly remembered that he had been given an injection by Lin Chuxia. Then, he entrusted his old friend to do a more in-depth examination. He didn't get any definite results, but he said with certainty that his son probably wouldn't have any more offspring in his life. However, his son had already given Xiao a little granddaughter before, which means that his son's fertility is not a problem. Everyone is inseparable. And all this is due to Zhou Mikang's little wife? He can't deal with that woman for the time being, so let's deal with Zhou Mikang. Moreover, in his opinion, letting Zhou Mikang lose his children and grandchildren is far more satisfying than ruining his little wife. He went to Mei Changqing, hoping to give him the right to test Zhou Mikang, but was rejected. He had no choice but to pass over Mei Changqing and give it to the old chief, but no one picked it up. He has worked so hard to get everything today, isn't he just hoping that the Xiao family will become stronger and stronger, but now, the roots are gone, so why is he still struggling? He couldn't wait any longer, he had a feeling that the victory on his side was only temporary, while he was just a pawn to charge forward. Then, if this is the case, if he wins, he will not be held accountable for what he has done. If he loses, no matter what he does or does not do, the outcome will be the same. If this is the case, why doesn't he take a gamble? Moreover, he believed that the old chief should also be willing to see this result. Therefore, he summoned a few stronger staff members to settle the score with Zhou Mikang. Not fulfilling his wish, he called in the diehards who were hidden outside. He didn't let them in at first because he wanted to hide his strength, and didn't want Mei Changqing to be wary of him, but in the end, he still couldn't hide it. But now, what is this called? Of course he understood that he had been duped by Zhou Mikang, and now he was even more ashamed. Originally, he still had a glimmer of hope that his son would not be born, but now, this hope was gone. Zhou Mikang looked at Xiao Binqi, whose face was cloudy and sunny, with a smile, and then patted his head. You send it to your door yourself, and I will be embarrassed if I don't fulfill your wish. Take me to the hospital. Xiao Binqi panted heavily. I can't, I'm a detainee now. As for those who can send you, you have arrested them, he. Zhou Mikang smiled gloatingly. You are too foresighted. I found out, the person I admire the most right now is you. It's really extraordinary for you to be able to make up your mind to leave the palace. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 289. Thank you for your encouragement. I have a little Calvin, and the code is very slow. I will work hard. You. Xiao Bing pointed at Zhou Mikang with a livid face. You are too despicable. Ha. Zhou Mikang laughed dumbfounded. Isn't it a little disrespectful for you to put the word despicable on me? At this time, the diehards who had been knocked down stood up one after another. Feeling they're ready to move, Zhou Mikang turned around and swept his legs. After a burst of screams, everyone in the room except Zhou Mikang lay comfortably on the ground. I don't know if it was because of the blood loss, or because he was scared. Xiao Binqi's face turned pale. Zhou Mikang sat back in his chair, glanced leisurely at all the diehards who were beaten up by him and dared not get up again, then looked at Xiao Binky, and smiled, "Climb out by yourself, otherwise, you won't be able to get out of this door today. If you don't believe me, you can try it. Help! Help!" Xiao Bing shouted loudly. Compared between losing face and losing life, he should choose to lose face. If it takes a while, even if he doesn't lose his life, he probably won't be able to save his descendants. He even regretted talking nonsense with Zhou Mikang just now. He should have gone to the hospital immediately. The few people who were in charge of keeping watch outside the door were stunned when they heard the call sign, and then realized that it was called by their dear director. They looked at each other, and they were a little unbelievable. A dozen people couldn't handle it and were locked up. Zhou Mikang for so long? But the cries for help inside were getting louder and louder, and they couldn't allow them to think too much, so they hurriedly opened the door. As a result, it cannot be pushed. Inside the door, Zhou Mikang pointed to the latch on the door with a smile, and said to Xiao Bing, "I did it myself. I can't live." The plug was inserted by Xiao Binky. His thought at the time was that it would be fun to say anything, and Zhou Mikang could not be allowed to escape. Unexpectedly, the one who got the best was himself. Zhou Mikang got up and came to Xiao Binky's side. "Climb, I promise I won't stop you. The implication is that you have to leave. It must be stopped." Xiao Bing glared at Zhou Mikang viciously, and crawled towards the door without saying a word. His lower body was already numb with pain, and now he felt that his mind was buzzing, and he felt like he didn't know where he was. Although he didn't study medicine, common sense told him that he probably lost too much blood. Not far from coma, the desire to survive made him use all four limbs unconsciously, speeding up. Zhou Mikang walked slowly behind him as he said. He didn't stop him, and let him climb to the door. It wasn't until he trembled and wanted to stand up that Zhou Mikang said quietly, "If your feet touch the ground, I can guarantee that I will make some moves." A hero doesn't suffer from immediate losses. Xiao Bing suppresses the roiling hatred in his heart. "Kneel up and move to the door." Shouted loudly, "Stop pushing. Stop it for me." The few people outside the door have been kicking hard at the door, but this thick cast iron door is not something they can break. Because they were too excited, they couldn't listen to Xiao Bing's shouts. It was impossible for Xiao Binky to pull out the bolt because of the constant kicking by several people. Moreover, even if he could pull it out if he saw the air, the force of several people would definitely break his wrist. "Ah!" Xiao Bing howled, sat up suddenly from the bed, glanced around, and found that he was in a white ward. He tried to think back for a while, the last memory. It's just that he kept yelling to the people outside to stop, but no one listened to him, and then he didn't know anything. "Are you awake?" Qin Zongshan's face appeared in front of him. "Old Qin," Xiao Binky looked at him in confusion, "who sent me here?" "It's a few young people who say they're your subordinates. They're outside." "I'll let them in," Qin Zongshan said as he opened the door of the ward and shouted outside, "Director Xiao is awake, come in and talk." "Director?" Those who came in were the subordinates who had been guarding the door. Their heads were wrapped in gauze, and they were too embarrassed to look at Xiao Binky. "Are you pig-headed? I told you to stop, why didn't you listen?" Seeing them, Xiao Bing was furious. "We just wanted to knock the door open, but we didn't hear it," one of them said, and the other quickly echoed, "Yes, Director Xiao, I knocked my ankle off." "You?" Xiao Bing waved his hands annoyedly, "What's going on in the back?" "Back?" The three looked at each other in a daze for a while, and then they understood what Xiao Binky meant. One of them hurriedly said, "It was Zhou Mimikang who opened the door, and we will send you to the hospital." "Humph," Xiao Bing snorted coldly, but he didn't say the sentence. "I don't think he dares to do it in the end. Where are the others?" "I mean they went in with me. They were hospitalized, and they all had broken legs." All broken, Xiaobing raised his voice sharply. Yes, this time it was Qin Zhongshan who answered, the three of them have comminuted fractures in their calves. Even if they recover, they will never be the same as before. Give me a pen and paper, Xiaobing said. Heal your wounds first, you shouldn't be tired right now, Qin Zhongshan persuaded. What's the injury? How can I be injured? Xiaobing stared at Qin Zhongshan with displeasure on his face. I'm fine, why are you cursing me? The three subordinates cast their eyes on a certain part of Xiaobingqi at the same time. There, the injury is not serious, did the director forget or? Qin Zhongshan waved his hands at the three of them, go out first. The three of them rushed out as if they had received an amnesty. Binky. After hesitating for a while, Qin Zhongshan still told the truth, you have been in the hospital for 10 hours, and now, you just woke up after the effect of the medicine wore off. 10 hours, Xiaobing got up suddenly, and there was a tearing pain under his body. He fell back heavily, and a layer of sweat beads appeared on his forehead. Qin Zhongshan quickly supported him, and frowned, are you afraid that they will know, or have they really forgotten? He wanted to stab at him, but the knife stabbed back at himself, and then, everything was vivid in his mind like a movie. Xiaobing stared at Qin Zhongshan dejectedly, I. There was some sympathy in Qin Zhongshan's eyes, and he nodded at him, that's right, it's what you think. What kind? Xiaobing asked unwillingly. In the future, your place will be just a display. How about insisting on treatment? It's useless. After a pause, Qin Zhongshan said truthfully, it's already necrotic. What do you mean? Xiaobing stared at Qin Zhongshan with bloodshot eyes, what do you mean by that? Ah, Qin Zhongshan sighed, if you send it to the doctor in time, maybe you can keep a part of it, but if it takes too long, if you don't remove it, your life will be lost. You guys. Xiaobing shook like chaff all over his body, he was really from the palace. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 290. Arrived at the second shift, although I said I would not stay up late, but I promised the third shift yesterday, but Kain was stuck during the day. I was really embarrassed because my problem was not worth talking, so I stayed up again. Just when Xiaobingqi knew that he had become a eunuch and couldn't extricate himself from his anger, Zhou Mikang and Zhou Jingping were taken to Shangjing. The father and son went there in the same car, and they were silent all the way. The father and son didn't know why they went here, and they didn't know who the accompanying personnel belonged to, but it was a good thing that they weren't handcuffed. The destination is an antique house in Shangjing. When the car stopped, the father and son looked at each other, unable to hide the surprise in their eyes. Such a place is not like an office. Their case is not closed yet, what does it mean to bring them to such a place? Arranging the father and son in a neat two-bedroom apartment, the people who brought them all left without asking or making a sound. Dad, are you okay? Zhou Mikang said first. No, Zhou Jingping looked at his son and breathed a sigh of relief, I can tell from your appearance that you haven't suffered much these days. It's not that I didn't suffer a lot, it's that I didn't suffer at all. Zhou Mikang curled his lips, and reported to his father that Xiao Yuan and his son did not get any benefit from troubling him. Even if there is a bugging device in this room, he has nothing to be afraid of. These things, believe it. Anyone who should know knows that he just wants to make his father feel more at ease now. After listening to his son's story, Zhou Jingping smiled wryly, you boy. He really didn't know what to say, did his son do something wrong? Of course, but he can't praise him, can he? Dad is pitying them, Zhou Mikang's voice showed a trace of displeasure. What he dislikes the most is his father's sometimes benevolent kindness. Some people just want to be beaten to death with a stick, otherwise they will only get worse and worse. Even if they can't kill you, they can disgust you to death. I'm not pitying them, it's... Zhou Jingping coughed softly, forget it, let's not talk about it, you go and see if there is anything to eat, I'm hungry. Joe Mikang had black lines on his face. We are being detained, not at our own home. Is anyone watching? Joe Jingping spread his hands. Since we are thrown here, there must be a reason for throwing us here. No matter what, we can't go hungry. Hurry up and cook for me. I won't, Joe Mikang said flatly. How could you not? Joe Jingping glared at him. During the years of studying abroad, you cooked and ate by yourself. Why didn't you know how? If you couldn't, what should I do? I've never cooked. Could it be, are you going to starve to death? Joe Mikang knew it for the first time. His father was still so reckless, but, thinking about the relationship between father and son these years, he finally did not refute him, but turned and went into the kitchen. A smile appeared on the corner of Joe Jingping's mouth. No matter what the result was, the happiest thing in his life was to restore his relationship with his son. For the next 2 days, the father and son were thrown here, and no one cared about them. The father and son, who had the same aspirations, didn't even mention the matter of being thrown here, and no one cared about it. They knew that they would come when they should come, so what they had to do was to accept everything calmly. Given the current situation, what else can they do? Although it's not fish on the chopping board, things like escaping are not in their consideration at all. If they really get to that point, probably, they won't be treated like this now. The father and son still have a bottom line in their hearts. Early in the morning of the third day, 2 strong men came over and said with a blank expression, "Let's go." After saying that, he turned around and left, and the father and son followed without hesitation. Turning around and entering a courtyard with 3 entrances, one of the men looked at Joe Mikang and said, "Follow me." He took him to an empty room, turned around and left, but there was still nothing. Explain. The expression on Joe Mikang's face was very calm, but one could tell from his tightly clenched fists how nervous he was. He was worried about his father, but he also knew that his father would not be in danger. Half an hour later, when he was about to be unable to sit still, the man who brought him reappeared and glanced at him expressionlessly. "Follow me." He was taken to an adjacent suite, and when he reached the main hall, the man motioned him to wait a moment, walked to a red door and knocked lightly. "Chief, Joe Mikang is here. Come in." It was the voice of an older man, with a hint of kindness in his majesty. Joe Mikang hurried forward. The man had already opened the door, and nodded at him. "Please. This is a study." Behind the desk was a hale and hearty old man, about 60 years old, with a faint smile on his face, and nodded to Joe Mikang. "Sit down and talk." "Yes," Joe Mikang replied loudly, sitting upright on the chair. If you observe carefully, you will find that his legs are shaking slightly. "Not bad," the old man smiled at him. "I've made you feel wrong these days." Joe Mikang straightened his body. "Report to the chief." "I am not wronged." His voice also trembled slightly. And the old man nodded. "You are not wronged. You have beaten and maimed anyone who was looking for trouble. You really have nothing wronged. Report to the chief." "I'm just acting in self-defense." "Justifiable self-defense? Ha ha ha." The old man laughed loudly. "Boy, with the demeanor of your great-grandfather, do you know why you left your father and son alone these 2 days?" "I don't know, but I believe the chief must be protecting us." The old man's expression became serious. "I'm very happy that you can think like this. Now, everything is over. After you go back, work hard. There are some things that I could arrange for you, but now, I want you to do it yourself." "Do?" "Yes." At this moment, Joe Mikang could roughly guess the identity of the old man. Although his mind was confused, he knew that as an old man, he was not qualified to explain. "This is my phone number." The old man handed him a note. "When you are in a hurry, just call me on this number." Joe Mikang, who had always maintained a paralyzed expression, became agitated rarely. The old man laughed. "That's right, you are only in your 20s, You always have a straight face, who do you want to scare? I didn't do it on purpose, I was afraid that you would say I was immature. Joe Mikang scratched his head embarrassingly, showing a rare embarrassment at his age. My legs are shaking all the time. Haha. The old man smiled and waved his hands at him. I will ask Long Xiangjun to send you back. You will soon understand why this arrangement has been made these few days. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 291. Long Xiangjun is the middle-aged man who brought Zhou Mikang to see the old man. He is the youngest son of Long Lao. He was a soldier. Now he is one of Long Lao's personal secretaries. The old man attached great importance to the Zhou family. Or because of his father's admiration for the Zhou family father and son, when Long Xiangjun drove the two father and son away, he changed his original indifference and smiled at the father and son rarely. Probably because he doesn't smile often, his smile is very stiff, or he himself realizes that his smile is not very good looking, so he quickly suppresses his smile, and puts on another face that is paralyzed. Zhou Jingping turned his eyes to the outside of the car in a concealed manner, and tried not to let himself laugh. The paralyzed faces of Mr. Long and his third son were so twins. His third daughter-in-law once said that his third son laughed like a sneer, which was strange. It's scary. At first he really didn't think so, but just now with Long Xiangjun's smile, he suddenly agreed with what the third daughter-in-law said. Brother Long, what happened in the past 2 days? Zhou Mikang no longer held back his doubts as the car drove out of the courtyard. Old Wang has retired, and the part he was in charge of has been transferred to my father. The courtyard you came here today is for some old experts to live and work. I asked you to come here because I don't want you to be embarrassed, and you will gradually know the details. Long Xiangjun's answer is also specious. Elder Wang retired. Zhou Mikang was taken aback for a moment. He remembered the last time he saw Elder Wang, and there seemed to be something wrong, but he couldn't find what was wrong for a while. Can I trouble you to send us to meet Mr. Wang? Zhou Jingping asked inquiringly. Yes, Long Xiangjun responded happily. If I hadn't considered that you might want to see him, I wouldn't have answered Zhou Mikang's question just now. Zhou Jingping and Zhou Mikang were stunned. It turned out that this was also a test. If they ignored Mr. Wang, Mr. Long would probably be disappointed. Who likes a cold and heartless person? Along the way, the three of them didn't talk anymore. Zhou Mikang's brows were furrowed all the time. He felt that the answer was in his mind, but he couldn't make it out. Hey, Zhou Jingping sighed softly, it's up to now. Don't you understand, Mr. Wang, he has been protecting us all this time. Zhou Mikang stared at his father suspiciously. Dad, what did he tell you? He didn't say anything, but what did he mean by making that trip and telling you that? Don't you understand? I guessed. He hoped that the relationship between my dad and me would get better, but... Zhou Mikang suddenly stopped. Got it? Zhou Jingping sighed again and patted his son on the shoulder. We all blamed him wrongly. A villa in a suburb of Shangjing. Elder Wang, his eldest son Wang Yang, his second son Wang Zhao and his third son Wang Hui were sitting in the study, and in the hall outside were the female relatives and grandchildren of the Wang family. The decline of the Wang family was sudden. As a result, the juniors in the family. I haven't even come to my senses yet, and I have a feeling that I can't tell whether it is a dream or reality. The eldest son, Wang Yang, looked at his father with pain in his eyes. Dad, why did you do this? Have you ever thought about us? The second son, Wang Yang, immediately echoed, yes, Dad, if you fight, the result probably won't be like this. Even if you don't think about us, you should think about Xiaoying, Xiao Hao, Xiaojia and the others, right? Wang Yang patted his face with his big hands, and sighed heavily. Dad, your years of painstaking efforts have turned into bubbles, are you really willing? Dad naturally has his reasons for doing this. You too, can you stop looking for debts like this? The younger son Wang Hui stared at the two brothers with dissatisfaction on his face. Dad won all this by his own ability, and he has helped us on the horse and sent us off for a while. In the end, we are not up to date, who can we blame? You only know how to blame Dad. Have you ever thought about why Dad did this? When Dad stepped back, the Wang family was indeed no longer standing at the top. However, the three of us will not become the one among the losers. We know that if we continue to fight, we may hurt others, so why do we have to fight? The road has been paved for us. Whether we can walk the road that everyone is willing to run depends on our own ability, and we can't always think about relying on Dad. Wang Yang frowned and was unhappy. You really don't feel pain in your back when you stand and talk. Your son's work arrangement is good. It's not that you don't have any objections. What about Xiaoying and Xiao Hao? Wang Zhao also said, yes, third brother, you can't just look at yourself, a family depends on the efforts of everyone, it cannot be supported by one person. I didn't say to rely on one person to support it. Xiaoying Xiaohao and Xiaowai have equal chances. If Xiaoying Xiaohao doesn't take good care of himself, who is to blame? According to the meaning of the elder brother and the second brother, Xiaoji should learn from the two elder brothers and take it as his responsibility to make grandpa angry, so that he can satisfy you. Nonsense. The boss and the second child said in unison. During the quarrel between the three brothers, Mr. Wang kept staring out of the window with a pale face. Seeing that the three of them were arguing more and more outrageously, he finally withdrew his gaze. It's almost enough. The face is what you fight for, not someone else. Dad, what do you mean by that? Are you alluding to us? That's right, Dad, you've always favored my little brother, and you're still lying to him now. Looking at the two sons who are righteous and confident, Mr. Wang felt a deep sense of defeat in his heart. The son and the second son were born during the war years. For their safety, they had to be fostered in a fellow villager's house, and later they were taken home to raise themselves. When the youngest son was born, he was already liberated and stayed with his parents all the time, or because of the influence of his living environment since he was a child, the eldest and second sons were extremely selfish. This makes the character of their children deeply influenced by them. After they graduated, the jobs he arranged for his grandsons all started from the grassroots. As a result, only the little grandson, Wang Ji, is getting more and more successful step by step with his own efforts. As for the other two grandsons, they performed fairly well at first, but after 3 months, the old boy learned his habits, and it seemed that being lazy was a big deal. As for the eldest son and the daughters of the second son, they have no hobbies other than comparing food and clothing costs and whose husband is more capable. The most direct consequence is that the younger grandson has now been promoted to the director of a certain place, while the eldest grandson and second grandson are just ordinary workers. As for the girls, the gap is even bigger. The eldest granddaughter and the younger granddaughter only graduated from junior high school, and the younger granddaughter has become the youngest professor at B University. Such a difference made it impossible for the eldest son and the second son to accept this reality after the sudden change. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 292. As soon as it arrives. Looking at the two older brothers who were angry at their father with confidence, Wang Hui felt a deep sense of powerlessness in his heart. Are these still the older brothers he once respected? Okay, what you have to do now is to adapt and work hard. I will step down. Your work will remain the same, which is already the best result. Wang Lokong waved his hands to his sons. I will help you if I can help you. I've helped you all, from now on, you'll have to rely on yourself, go out. The old man has no official status and has a stubborn temper. He knew that what he said was useless, so the eldest and second child got up quickly and walked out angrily. Wang Hui sat still. The old man waved his hand at him. Go back, if I can come back every month in the future, I'll count as not raising you in vain. Dad. Wang Hui's nose was a little pathetic, because of this humble request. Your eldest brother and second brother probably won't come back in the future. Your mother will definitely find it difficult to accept it for a while. Come back and see her when you have time. With a heavy sigh, the old man picked up a pen and rubbed it back and forth with his thumb. Hold the pen. This is a typical action of the old man when he is in a bad mood. Wang Hui hurriedly made a promise. Dad, don't worry, I will come back every week. Yunlian and Xiaoman live here. It's not far from here for them to go to work. The old man smiled and patted his son on the shoulder. Dad knows that you are filial, but you also need someone to take care of you. It is enough to remember to come back and see us two old guys when you are resting. Wang Hui couldn't control it anymore, and let his tears fall like beads with a broken thread. Since childhood, he was afraid of his father and liked his mother. Mother. Always smile and praise their brothers and sisters. Father. Most of the time it is to train them unsmilingly. Then I grew up and worked. It is also difficult to get his father's praise and approval. Every time he goes home, his mother always asks for his health in a soft voice. For this reason, he mostly chooses to go home when his father is not around. After getting married and having children, he gradually understood his father more, but in his heart, his father was still synonymous with seriousness and omnipotence. Father has been working hard to support them, but he doesn't make them rely on him too much. Or, this is the day to guard against. It's a pity that because the eldest brother and the second brother were fostered when they were young, they always feel that even as compensation, their father must give them enough help to find a bright future for them. Father's painstaking efforts. I can't understand it at all, or even more. It was complaining that their father didn't think much about them, that made them end up like this. He is the youngest, what he says. The eldest brother and the second brother couldn't listen to him, and they didn't like him since they were young, thinking that he had enjoyed too many blessings. You have no right to point fingers at them. It's just that the father retired, and their brothers and sisters were not affected at all. This is really the best result. If the father is really what the eldest brother and the second brother hoped, the Wang family will probably be over this time. Such is the cruelty of political struggle. Winners and losers, like my father, can let go of everything and make this choice. How many high-ranking people can really do it? Proud to be his son. At the same time, as his son, he felt sorry for him. At this moment, he let go of all his defenses and cried like a child. After making such a decision, Mr. Wang felt very sad. He sighed softly, but did not persuade him. He let Wang Hui cry bitterly. The door was gently pushed open. Wang Ji stuck his head in and saw his father. He quickly shrank his head back again. Come in, old Wang snorted. Why didn't you knock on the door just now? Hey. Wang Ji smiled mischievously. Uncle Joe and Joe Mikang are here, the uncle, the second uncle, and the eldest brother and the second brother. Stop them from coming in. Grandpa, do you want to let them in? Elder Wang glared at him. What are you procrastinating for? Then he stood up and walked out. Of course, he knew that his little grandson was doing this to retaliate against Joe Mikang's previous misunderstanding. However, that was intentionally misunderstood by him. How could he blame others? Most importantly, if he didn't do that, Mr. Joe would not choose to vote for Mr. Long because of his stubborn temper. They are the pillars of the country, and he can't let them be buried because of him. Wang Hui also quickly wiped away the tears on his face, and walked outside. He and Zhou Jingping are friends. Wang Yang and his son and Wang Zhao's father and son were blocking the door, accusing the Zhou family of betrayal and their shamelessness. The female family members of the Wang family never interfered with the affairs of the men, they just sat in the living room, stretching their necks to watch the excitement. "Get out of the way! Get out of the way!" Wang Lao frowned and looked at the two sons and two grandsons who were standing at the door, scolding happily, feeling that they had lost face. "Dad, they did such a thing, how can they have a face? Dad, you are generous and don't hold grudges. We can't do it. Their family has today, and it's all your help. But when it comes to the critical moment, they do such a thing. If you want me, I will be embarrassed to see you again in this life you. Yeah, it's too shameless. It's just shameless." Two couples of father and son stood at the door, each saying a word, but they refused to move. Let it go or not. Before that, both the eldest family and the second family were extremely afraid of the old man, and even dared not show up in front of the old man. In fact, they may not be really afraid, but just want to use obedience to get more things from the old man. Now, knowing that the old man can't bring them anything more, he turned his face. However, in his gut, he was more or less afraid. Seeing that the old man was really angry, he hesitated for a moment, and then dodged to the two sides. Outside the door, Zhou Jingping and Zhou Mikang stood calmly, in stark contrast to Wang Yang and Wang Zhao and Wang Zhao. "Old chief!" Zhou Jingping called out, his eyes turned red immediately, and after only a few days of absence, the old man lost a lot of weight again. "Grandpa Wang, I'm sorry." Zhou Mikang looked at Mr. Wang with a face of shame. "I was too arbitrary, please forgive me, Grandpa." "No, you're not arbitrary." Mr. Wang stepped forward and patted Zhou Mikang on the shoulder, and laughed as he watched the father and son. "You guys came sooner than I expected. To be honest, I am very relieved now, at least it shows that I am not a failure as a human being, and in such a short period of time, you have already realized my true intentions." Speaking of this, suddenly thinking of the performance of the eldest son and the second son, the smile on the old man's face dissipated a little. Go in. Elder Wang turned around and took the lead to walk in. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang Hui approached Zhou Jingping and whispered, "Did you not suffer too much these days? Except for freedom, nothing else has changed much." Zhou Jingping put his arms around his shoulders. "How about you, how are you doing?" "Hey," Wang Hui sighed softly, "father took this step for us, so I haven't changed much." "The chief." Zhou Jingping sighed and didn't say anything more. Wang Ji was still angry with Zhou Mikang, so he stood far away and did not come over. Zhou Mikang greeted Mrs. Wang, and Wang Ji's mother, Qiao Xinzi, and walked straight to Wang Ji's side. The first aunt and the second aunt didn't bother to look at him at all. With his character, how could he be hot-faced? Stick a cold ass. Are you still angry with me? Don't be so narrow-minded, my daughter-in-law is bigger than you. Zhou Mikang denounced Wang Ji seriously, but the other party couldn't help but give him a white look. Show that you have a wife? Wife who doesn't have it, my son will call him dad. Do you have it? Thinking that he didn't even have a consummate room, Zhou Mikang rubbed his nose uncomfortably. There will be. Seeing his actions, Wang Ji knew that he was guilty, and immediately smiled contentedly. Hurry up, don't marry my grandson's wife by then, and you haven't married your daughter-in-law yet. Your mouth is still so bad. Zhou Mikang glared at him, then turned and walked towards the old man's study. Wang Ji's younger sister, Wang Yu, was not familiar with Zhou Mikang, so when he entered, she moved to Wang Ji's side and asked in a low voice, "Is it because he likes Yamiru?" Yes, Wang Ji nodded. Then does he still like it now? Probably not. Wang Ji looked at his sister. Why do you ask this? I'm not a roundworm in his stomach, how do I know if he likes it or not? Yamiru is married. Wang Yu shrugged, that's why I asked curiously. Married? Wang Ji was taken aback. When did it happen? A week ago. Married to Huang Lao's eldest son, the disfigured eldest son. Originally, Wang Lao, Long Lao, and Huang Lao stood on 3 legs, each with their own faction. Now that Wang Lao has withdrawn, it is the feeling that Long Lao, and Huang Lao are dividing the world equally. Of course, this world means equal distribution of power. How do you know? Wang Ji looked at his younger sister incredulously. With Yamiru's character, how can you fall in love with Huang Xinlong? Did you forget that Huang Suyi and I are classmates and colleagues? She is always depressed these days. I asked her what's wrong, and she said that her brother married a broken shoe that is well known in that circle. What does this have to do with Zhou Mikang? Yamiru's condition for marrying Huang Xinlong is to ask the Huang family to help rehabilitate the Zhou family and return Zhou's father and son to freedom. Then Mr. Huang agreed. Cut. Wang Yu raised his eyebrows. Is she qualified enough? Huang Xinlong agreed. The premise is that she must marry him first, and then he will help her. These two are really a natural couple. Wang Ji shook his head amusedly. Unfortunately, Yamiru made a wrong calculation this time. Zhou Mikang will not be grateful to her. He used to love her so much, now she does this kind of thing for him, won't he be grateful? Wang Yu wondered. If so, isn't it too unfeeling? She did that kind of thing to Zhou Mikang. If Zhou Mikang still loves her and appreciates her again, then Zhou Mikang is mentally ill and there is no cure. Wang Ji said bitterly, that kind of woman, always self-righteous. Brother, why do you hate Yamiru so much? Wang Yu sized Wang Ji up and down. Did she do something wrong to you? Are you just hoping for bad luck for her?